Hello, and welcome to the video on the Hellenistic Era. Okie dokie. I will try to make this short and sweet, especially after I went nearly an hour on the last video on Greek philosophy. That's okay. Surprisingly, my desire to talk about philosophy was greater, oddly enough, since that's what my PhD is in, but oh well. Anyway, the Hellenistic era is an era in Greek history that starts with the death of Alexander in 323, and it runs technically through about 30 BCE. Um, but anyway, that does not answer the question of who the heck is Alexander? I will tell you. You, you, as you can see, Hellenistic just means Greek-ish era, and I'll explain that too in just a moment. So in the Achaean Greek era, we got a period of time where Greece developed the polis as its sort of system of social organization. It developed the rule of law. In the classical era, Athens develops democracy, and we get great accomplishments in Greek art and Greek philosophy. And then, towards the end of the classical era, we have a period of dominance by Persia. I talked about that. When Sparta went to war with Athens in the late 4th or 5th century, that is the late 400s, so that means low numbers because it's BCE. Remember, it's counting down, so that means low numbers. Um, so the late 400s means the low numbers of 400s. Um, when Sparta went to war with Athens, they eventually appealed to Persia or helped. Persia helped them defeat Athens and then promptly conquered the rest of Greece. So that sucks. Um, the period In that period, Thebes, another Greek city, was one of the most prominent cities, but neither Athens nor Sparta was on top anymore. But anyway, the point is, the Greeks were not. The Greeks had basically lost. They were not the top dogs anymore that they became in the aftermath of the Persian War. It seemed like a depressing period for Greece. Um, they were just a backwater arm of the Persian Empire. Then, what happened was there was a figure that arose in Greece who was going to change all that. And his name was Alexander, who would come to be known as Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander was the son of the king of a region of Greece, um, was the son of a region, the king of the region of Greece called Macedon. Now, remember I described Greece compared to Persia. Greece was a backwater. Well, Macedon is a backwater of a backwater, a relatively untamed wilderness. Um, if Greece is Muskogee, Macedon is the trailer park on the edge of Muskogee, metaphorically speaking. Uh, um, so Philip of Macedon was the king, and he wanted his son Alexander to be classy, to have a fancy education. Um, so he hired tutors from Athens. Athens, of course, was the center of Greek philosophy, and it was the cultural center of Greece for a while. Um, and so he hired the best tutors he could get from Athens to come educate his son Alexander, because Philip was the king of, like I said, a relative backwater, and he wanted his son to be fancier than he was. Now, this is going to become important in a minute. This is the reason I'm telling you all this. I have my reasons. Um, Sorry, one of my cats is visiting me, and I need to pet him. Um, anyway, um, so remember in the thing about philosophers where I showed you Socrates taught Plato, who taught Aristotle? Well, Aristotle taught Alexander. He was one of the tutors that was hired to teach Alexander. Um, and he was a big deal philosopher, Aristotle was. So Alexander got a pretty damn good education from him. Uh, the thing is, this education included, because remember, these philosophers were from Athens. And if you recall from back here, um, in this one, on this slide, uh, that the Athenians were the ones who came up with the idea of Pan-Hellenism, right? That there is a unique and special culture, a culture unique to Greece that is worth defending and fighting for. So Alexander, as a kid, had his head filled with this idea that Greek culture was amazing and special, and was worth fighting for, and that the glory years of Greece had been when the Greeks fought the Persians, and then right after that, and then everything went downhill from there. Okay, so this is all important. Philip dies when Alexander is about 16. Some people think that Alexander's mom poisoned Philip so that her son could become king. No one's sure about that, but anyway. Um, Alexander becomes king. And Alexander has plan. Ow! Don't bite me, you little shit. Anyway, um, Alexander has plans. Sometimes Darian gets a little bitey. Um, he gets excited. Um, so anyway, Alexander has plans. Um, those plans involve a concept called homonoia. Now, homonoia is just a Greek word meaning the unity of all people. Alexander had this cuckoo idea, at least cuckoo for the 4th century BCE. Alexander had the cuckoo idea that people in different nations, like Persians and Greeks and Egyptians and whatnot, that people weren't really different, that people were just people. And the only reason they seemed different was that they were raised with different cultures, and that they were taught different things when they were young. Now, some of you may be going, duh. But that was a radical idea for the 4th century BCE. Most cultures in that period, most civilizations in that period, believed that they were the only truly civilized people, and that everybody else was little better than animals. The word barbarian is a Greek word, and it just meant originally anyone who doesn't speak Greek. So very, very culturally chauvinistic, um, this idea that they had. Um, anyway, a barbarian, anyone that doesn't speak Greek is not even human almost. Well, anyway. Um, Alexander didn't buy that. Alexander thought that everybody was just a person, just trying to get by, just trying to do their thing, and that they were all taught different things, and that's why there were different cultures. Uh, he believed that this difference in culture was at the root of all conflict. Why do people fight wars? Because they have different cultures and they believe different things. Why do they have different cultures? Just because that's how they were taught. It's not inherent. It's not because of the gods or anything like that. It's just the way they were raised. People are all fundamentally the same. Homonoia, the unity of all people. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Sounds like he should have become a motivational speaker or something like that. Well, he didn't. Because of his other thing that he believed in. The other thing that he believed in was Pan-Hellenism. The idea that there's a unique and special culture shared by all Greeks that is worth fighting for and worth defending. Well, that sounds nice, right? Patriotism, in a way. Except, let's put these two together. Homonoia. People only fight. All people are basically the same, and all conflict is down to a difference in culture. Pan-Hellenism. Greek culture is special and cool and worth fighting for. How can we prevent people from fighting in the future? Let's just give them all Greek culture. After all, Greek culture is the one that's really cool and worth fighting for, right? That one's the awesome culture. Let's bring Greek culture to everybody, and then there won't be any differences, and people won't fight anymore. Never mind the fact that the Greek city-states fight each other all the time, but whatever. We won't talk about that. Alexander basically got the idea that the way to save the world was to impose Greek culture on everybody, and then everybody would be the same. What if they don't want Greek culture, you may ask? Well, they're going to get it whether they like it or not. So this brings us to Alexander as king. Alexander was king from 336 to 323. Not long, right? Not long. In those years, Alexander basically, there's no easy way to put this, conquered the world. He did. He was a military genius, a lot of people believe, thus earning him the appellation Alexander the Great. He raised an army. He took back Greece from the Persian Empire. That was the first thing he did. Then he started trying to conquer the Persian Empire. Remember, the Persian Empire is the largest empire the world has ever known. It's huge. It stretches from Greece, or it stretched from Greece all the way through the entirety of the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, all the way to Iran. That's a lot of territory. And Alexander said, I'm going to conquer all that. And then he did! And it didn't take him long to do it either. What the hell, Alexander? And everywhere he went, he left Greek culture. He built gymnasiums and academies of Greek culture. He built libraries to house the works of Greek philosophy. He left people to teach the locals to speak Greek. He built statues in Greek style. He was determined, he built temples to the Greek gods. He was determined that everybody was gonna go Greek. Everybody was gonna be Greek uh, in the entire known world. Alexander conquers the entire Persian Empire. Then he does the impossible and conquers Egypt. What the hell? And conquers, or not conquers, but fights his way into part of India. He didn't conquer India. He got part of the way into the north of India and then decided to turn back. Um, but that's how far he went. He went from Greece to India, leaving Greek culture everywhere he went. Then he died. Young, very young, obviously. I may have gotten the age that he became king wrong because he died when he was 33, so I guess he must have been 20 when he became king. Because he dies in 323. And he either died, as far as we can tell, he might have been poisoned, but that's not super likely based on the evidence we have. He either died of venereal disease or drinking too much. And either way, to die at 33 of one of those two things, you got to be living hard. You got to be partying hard to go at 33 of either one of those things. See, are you proud of me? I'm drinking water and stuck a sun kiss. Anyway, um, live fast, die young, indeed. Um, conquer the world, party hard, die young. Good lord. So Alexander conquered the entire world and smeared Greek culture all over it like a kid with fingerprint on your walls. Um, his death ushers in what we call the Hellenistic Era. Now, Hellenistic, as noted above here, means Greek-ish. So the Greek-ish era. And you can understand it if you think about what he did. He didn't, this wasn't an age of people being Greek. The actual Greek people were still just, just the ones that lived in Greece. But Alexander made people more Greek-ish all over the known world at the time. He made them more like Greeks all over the known world. And that was his legacy. And the Hellenistic era is going to last for several hundred years. Alexander did not build a lasting empire. He conquered these places, but he was not good at administration. And when he died without any kids, his generals fought amongst each other and divided up his empire into different realms that they ruled over. Um, but all of these people were left with the legacy of Greek culture, the Greek language, the Greek arts, Greek philosophy, all of that. From Egypt through Mesopotamia and into Persia, and even India, the influence of Greek culture could be felt. Um, and hold on a second. The influence of Greek culture could be felt. Um, no. Hang on. I'm having a computer problem. And I can't pause it or otherwise I wouldn't be dealing with this. Thanks to the computer problem I'm having. Okay. Is that helping any? A little bit. Okay. Um, so he left the culture all over the place, and that Greek culture would continue to be influential for hundreds of years after Alexander died. In a way, even though we're going to Rome and the influence of Rome, even though we're going to be getting into the influence of Rome uh, soon, Rome was still living off of, if you will, Greek culture at first. It was just implementing a lot of ideas that it got from Greek culture at first. And then later on, a more Roman specific culture is going to become dominant. Uh, so anyway, um, the Hellenistic era lasts until 30 BCE when Rome finally conquers Hellenistic Egypt and turns it into a dependency of Rome. Um, but until then, uh, this legacy of Greek philosophy spread everywhere is going to be hugely influential. Even in India, the statuary, the styles of statues changed to become more Greek-like after Alexander physics, and they stay that way. Um, so anyway, what is the effect of this legacy of Greek culture? Well, one big effect is that with a common language, there's going to be and a common base of Greek philosophy to work from. There's going to be a there's going to be a how to put this a lot of progress, philosophical progress and scientific progress is going to be made throughout this entire region because suddenly if you're a scholar working on something, you're working in Greek and you're working with Greek philosophy, and you can correspond with and talk to anyone in the world, basically, because they're all going to speak Greek. Um, a Roman citizen living in the Roman Republic can talk to, if you're a scholar, if you're educated, which just means knowing Greek and Greek philosophy in this period, in the Hellenistic period, um, if you are an educated person, you can speak to educated people in Egypt, in Syria, in Palestine, in Babylon, in Mesopotamia in general, in Persia. Um, you can speak to educated people anywhere and you can cooperate with them to advance knowledge together because of this common foundation of knowledge that Alexander smeared all over the place. So Alexander did not succeed in building a lasting empire, but he did succeed in creating an empire of knowledge, if you will, an empire of Greek culture, a Greek-ish world. The entire world was made Greek-ish. It was made Hellenistic. Um, and so that's how Alexander created the Hellenistic era. Um, okay, that one was kind of short, but still should be enough. Hopefully, you got enough to do whatever you need to do. Let me see. Alexander the Great. Yeah, I think you got enough there. Okay, so ta-ta for now.